for Americans. That's more debt than 2008 when the U.S. was right on the verge of a recession. Still, the Fed chairman says the current economy is strong. However, he's not ready to issue any more interest rate cuts, at least right now. And with that, we are going to welcome in a guest who's going to talk about all of these things, including reparations, the idea of offering reparations to African Americans for the atrocities of slavery. Have been debated on the campaign trail and captured a lot of headlines.
That's right. Instead of waiting for reparations, though, there's a movement to end the black wealth gap with sustainable financial strategies. Joining us now live tonight is the first African American Secretary of State of New Jersey, the CEO and founder of dfree Financial Freedom, Dr. DeForest Soaries Jr. Good evening, Dr. Soaries. Thanks for joining us.
Well, good evening. And first, let me congratulate all of you for the Black News Channel. We certainly have been in need of such a resource, and I commend you, both of you, for lending your talent to this great platform.
Oh, you're too kind, Doctor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's begin with your $1 billion debt challenge to African Americans to pay down $1 billion in consumer debt and transfer those payments over to build savings, insurance, and other investments. Tell us about the steps people can actually take to accomplish that end.
Well, when I was drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, I thought my problem was insufficient income. The fact is, the more money I made, the more money I spent. And what I learned about myself is that until I got control of the money I did have, I would not be responsible or strategic with the money that I wanted to have. And so I started on my own journey. I led my church in New Jersey through a debt reduction campaign. And now we've got 10,000 people signed up to our $1 billion challenge who have paid down $24 million in debt. Here's the point. Until we, in fact, get control of our spending, then no amount of money will really equate to financial security. You know, the minimum wage in the National Basketball Association is over $500,000 a year, but 60% of the players file bankruptcy within 3 years of retirement. And so what's critical for us is to certainly argue for justice. I am absolutely convinced that anybody who works 246 years without pay is worthy of compensation. But while we're waiting for the reparations checks, I think we have to learn to balance our own checkbook. We have to control our spending. We have to ensure that we spend money on what we need versus what we want. And in my church alone, a young man testified last month that he paid off $263,000 in debt through our program in the last 5 years. So I think that on the one hand, while we're waiting for justice and reparations, we have to have a strategy for what we have. And then once we receive reparations, if we don't have a strategy, if we live above our means, if we don't have a plan for investing and saving, we will lose the money that we're given through reparations payments.
So you're saying that you don't think reparations will help put an end to the racial wealth gap?
I think reparations is a question of justice, but if we want to talk about economic freedom, what we have to do is really have an economic strategy. Reparations was given to Japanese families after they were interred. Reparations of a sort were given to former slave owners. And so, yes, America does, in fact, have ill to pay. As Dr. King said, it's a check that was returned insufficient funds. But reparations alone will not free us economically. You need an economic strategy and plan, which for us includes pay as you go, pay your bills on time, live within your means, save money, invest in assets, and earn dividends from good investments. So I'm not against reparations. I'm not against. I'm certainly for economic justice, but that's not a substitute for an economic strategy that starts at home.
Well, Doctor, let me ask you this. You mentioned a moment ago about living paycheck to paycheck. We've run a story for the last couple of days on the credit companies and how black folks are probably treated much more differently than white households are. What do you say to the person who has to choose between groceries and filling a prescription and those kinds of things? They just don't have the money to save.
Yeah, and many of them are senior citizens. I think, again, we have to fight for economic justice. It's not morally sound to have a nation as wealthy as ours, where especially our seniors have to choose between paying rent and buying medicine. On the other hand, I think, especially younger people, we have to do two things. One, we have to take advantage of opportunities to increase our income. Our program, our strategy that we call dfree, is as focused on helping people expand their incomes as we are save their money. But the truth of the matter is this. Many of us are paying high premium cable bills. African Americans are the first adopters of new technologies. Many of us have $1,000 cell phones when in fact it doesn't cost $1,000 to make a call. I just think that while we are fighting for economic justice, while we are fighting for increase in the minimum wage, we have to be very honest about the fact that we have very little to show for the $1.5 trillion that Black people spend. And if we don't change our spending habits, there is no economic resource that will really create the kind of economic security that we need.
So real quick to wrap things up, where can people find information about this challenge, and where can they get information from you to help them with this saving money?
Thank you. Our foundation has a website. It's called mydfree.org. MYD as in David, FREE. The focus is on freedom from debt, delinquencies, and deficits. We've trained churches. We've got over 200 Delta Sigma Theta sororities working with us. It's a national movement. It's a free online platform. We don't charge fees for training. I don't charge fees for speaking. This is not about making money. It's about helping our people develop an economic strategy.
All right, Dr. Soaries, thank you so much for your time. You're welcome here anytime. It's a very interesting concept. Have a good evening.
Thanks so much.
God bless.
Well, big